So there's something really dramatic going on right now at the very top of China's military. A sudden, pretty sweeping purge has taken down some of the most powerful people in the People's Liberation Army. Okay, so let's dive into what's happening and try to unpack what is really going on here. And really, the whole mystery boils down to this one question. President Xi Jinping is all about loyalty, right? But the main guy at the center of all this was seen as his closest military confidant. So, what on earth could have happened to change that?
It all kicks off with the disappearance of this one man, General Zhang Youxia. When word got out that he was under investigation for serious violations, it sent these massive shockwaves through the military. It was a clear signal that absolutely no one was safe.
And just so we're all on the same page, we're not talking about just some official. This is the top general in the world's largest military. General Zhang was at the absolute pinnacle of power. The official reason they're giving is an investigation for breaking discipline and the law, which is, a pretty common way of saying corruption charges in China.
Now, to really get why this is such a bombshell, you have to understand who General Zhang was to President Xi. He wasn't just a general. He was pretty much the general. His career was deeply, deeply tied to Xi's own rise to power. So who was this guy? Well, for starters, his military roots go way deep. His dad was a revolutionary hero, so you could say the army was in his blood. On top of that, he was the only senior general who'd actually seen real combat back in China's border war with Vietnam. And here's the kicker. He was on the Central Military Commission, the PLA's top decision-making group, from the very day Xi Jinping took office in 2012. This wasn't just an ally. This was a guy Xi must have thought he knew and trusted completely. I mean, look at his journey. It spanned decades, from a teenage recruit in the late 60s to a soldier hardened by real battle to being a trusted man at Xi's side for over a decade. His removal isn't just the end of a long career, it feels like the end of an entire era for the PLA. But here's the thing. As shocking as Zhang's downfall is, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. Turns out he's not the only one who got caught in this web. The story gets much, much bigger. Yeah, this isn't about targeting one person who might have been corrupt. What we're actually watching is the systematic dismantling of the entire military high command. And analysts use that word, eviscerated, for a very, very good reason. The scale of this is just staggering. Okay, look at this. In 2022, the Central Military Commission had 7 members. 7. Today, there are only 2 left. President Xi Jinping himself, and, get this, the general who's in charge of anti-corruption investigations. Just think about that. The country's top military body has been completely hollowed out. So, of course, this leads to the big question, why? Why would any leader take such a drastic step and basically decapitate his own military leadership? Well, it seems to be a pretty complex mix of reasons. Analysts are pointing to a few key theories. First, there's major corruption. Big scandals have been uncovered, especially in the rocket force. That's the part of the military that controls the nuclear weapons, and in the department that buys all the military gear, which, by the way, Zhang used to run. Second, it's possible Zhang just got too powerful for Xi's comfort. Third, he might have been using his power to protect his own buddies from being investigated. But that last point is probably the most important one. This is all part of Xi's long-term goal to build a military that's cleaner, more competent, and most of all, 100% loyal to him. So when you take a step back, this doesn't actually look like chaos. It looks like an incredible consolidation of power. A civilian leader who can just dismantle the entire military leadership with no visible pushback. It's a deliberate, calculated move, part of what one expert calls a multi-year effort to totally refashion and rejuvenate the leadership of the PLA. So what does all this internal drama mean for the rest of the world? I mean, specifically, what does it mean for Taiwan, which is one of the most dangerous potential flashpoints on the planet? It's a little counterintuitive, actually. The analysis suggests this purge makes a huge military operation against Taiwan less likely, at least in the short term. An invasion would be an incredibly complicated thing, maybe even harder than the D-Day landings in World War II. You just don't try something like that when your high command is in complete chaos. The long-term concern, though, is that if Xi actually succeeds in putting in a new leadership that's more competent, better with technology, and follows his orders without question, well, he could end up with a fighting force that's actually more capable, and therefore more dangerous. And this really gets to the heart of how Xi operates.
His history shows he's a calculated risk taker, for sure, but he is not a reckless gambler. And right now, with all this turmoil in his military, invading Taiwan would be a massive, unacceptable gamble. So we're left with this final, really crucial question. Xi is trying to remake his military to be more loyal. But in doing so, is he also creating a force that, once everything settles, will be far more formidable? A force potentially more willing to follow any order, no matter how risky. That is the question that's going to keep strategists in Washington, Taipei, and all around the world watching this very, very closely.